Congratulations, ladies and gentlemen. You've made it to the fourth quarter of world history. We're in the home stretch, and we're going to be starting off with lesson 10a. Today we're going to be talking about mass society, a little bit about what was going on in kind of the day-to-day world for most people, specifically in Europe and North America, but also elsewhere as well. So that's going to be the topic for us to deal with today. Bit of a preview. So we're going to talk a little bit about the Second Industrial Revolution. We'll talk a little bit about how the working class was organized. We're going to talk a little bit about urbanization, and finally kind of a new social structure based on some of the things going on related to the Industrial Revolution. Your reading this week is going to be the first half of chapter 20. It's going to be pages 615 to 628, called Mass Society, so be ready for that. And as you're reading, you're going to be looking specifically at some words. One is proletariat, dictatorship, feminism, and literacy. So be looking for those particular words as you're working through your reading. So we have to start off with looking at socialism. Socialism is the idea that everyone within a society is focused, all their efforts are focused on the good of the whole, as opposed to the good of the one, as in capitalism. It's now the good of everyone. There's a great deal of planning at the top level of a socialist country. So there's economic planning, and usually it's done by the government. The idea is that the rich and the poor of society should be more equal. So there should be an effort to try to bring the poor to the up to where the rich are, and bring the rich kind of down. It's kind of this large middle class is the goal. There's a focus on state ownership of property, and some of the early socialist communities were developed in France and others in the United States that were small, and just it was more of an attempt to see if it would work. Socialism is generally favored by the workers, but disliked by capital and the wealthy, and that makes sense. It's an idea of trying to equalize everybody out. So if you are low on the totem pole, you like it. If you are high on the totem pole, you do not. Also, we had some other ideas going on during this time frame, and one of the most important was the idea of communism, and that was initially developed by a gentleman by the name of Karl Marx. And he supported the idea of this huge redistribution of wealth to the working class. He felt the working class were the ones that supported the society and were continually held down by the bourgeoisie, which is the powerful class. So Marx decided that we should take from the rich and distribute evenly to the poor. So really his whole theory was based on the idea that the middle and upper classes were diametrically opposed to the working class, that they could not get along, and that the class struggle between rich and poor was more important than struggles between one country and the other. So that's what kind of how he looked like. And he really went pretty far. He said that he even advocated violence, advocated uprisings by the workers to throw off the oppression of the people higher in the social order. So, because we've had this industrialization, the idea of things are now being mass-produced, we have a lot of people that are moving into the cities. We talked about that earlier. So we have some concerns. Things like health, pollution, education, and utilities are now problems. Lots of people moving into the cities just aren't ready for them, so we have lots of issues in the urban environment. Architects now are starting to design buildings up because space is at a premium. People are all trying to get into one smaller area, and so we have to start building up. So the idea of the skyscraper is developed during this time frame. And of course, within the cities, we have the different classes. We have the elite class, the very, very top end of the class of society. About 5%, the top 5% of society controls about 40% of the wealth. So a tremendous amount of material is being owned by very, very few. Industrialists and bankers tend to be the new wealthy. And so instead of people that get their wealth by the fact that they're born a duke or a king or a prince or whatever it might be, now it's the barons of industry that are starting to be the wealthy and the elite. And we still have those other individuals too, but for the most part we have some new money rolling into the system. The middle class. So we have the upper class and we have the middle class. Middle class are the professionals. They're the managers. They generally work a standard day, but they are educated perhaps a little bit more. Things like doctors and lawyers and accountants, example. Hard work is very, very important. And there's a great desire to move up. The motivation is to move up to that elite level if you're in the middle class. The working class is the vast majority of society. We're talking about 80% of society is in the working class. And this is labor. These are the people that are going to the factories, punching in every day and working those long, long hours. Life is improving a little bit to the working class people because industry is prospering, so there's a little bit of a trickle down. They're getting a little bit better wages and maybe having a little bit more opportunity to buy some things that they'd like. And we're starting to see now that women are being involved in the workforce because we have such a desire to have factory workers, and women make up half of the population. There's a desire to pull them in too. So there's new job opportunities within the Industrial Revolution. These are generally lower paying jobs. Women are not becoming managers or doctors or lawyers during this time frame. That has to wait till later. And generally they're segregated from men at work, as we talked about before. So now we have some new issues that we've never had before as a society. Things like child care. We have kids at home or in large child care facilities. That's never happened in society before. So we're starting to now see a little bit more of a movement towards our modern day. And with women becoming involved in the workplace, we have a birth of women's rights. Women are frustrated by the fact that they're not paid the same. They don't have the same rights related to property or their kids, and they don't even have the ability to vote during this time frame throughout most of the world. So these are some concerns that they have. They start to demand, women do, that they want to go to college and they want to be included in professional fields. They want to be the doctors and the lawyers in society. So we're starting to see an early movement towards women's rights. And finally, we're seeing also with this new industrial revolution, this movement towards centralized human beings in cities, a move towards education. And education is, prior to the Industrial Revolution, something only the wealthy do. Maybe the middle class do a few years of it, but for the most part, it's the most wealthy that would ever go to high school or college. Now, the industries demand that there's some sort of an educated workforce. You have to be able to read to understand how to use a machine. You have to be able to speak well and write and things of that sort to do reports. So we have to have some level, some basic level of education. And also, the idea of universal suffrage, that's voting for everyone, is required for education. So if we want to make all human beings be able to vote, they have to be educated to be able to do that. So that's a little bit of information about what's going on in mass society during this time frame, and we'll talk more about that as we get closer to the modern day. So have a great day, and we'll talk to you soon.